Okay, before we get to questions, our state's attorney, Joe Castley, just has a few words.
I just want to say, I have been working here for 39 years, and I travel around the state, and I hear people say all over, how do you guys cooperate so well in Harford County? We have a reputation for cooperating, for not getting in each other's faces, for working well, for playing well, for sharing our toys. So it's been an honor for me to work with all these departments for 39 years. I have prosecutors in the task force that work with the task force. I have prosecutors in the Child Advocacy Center that work with their investigators on child abuse cases. The sheriff's DV unit and my prosecutors work in the same building right next to each other. And I think this is a big part of how well we do law enforcement in Harford County, in that we work as a team, and I think we should be proud of that. I just want to say something about what I see in the future, because we're all struggling to grow. I mean, they're adding a new judge in Bel Air in a couple of months, I'm guessing, you know, I don't have any more resources. I don't have any new people to cover that, and I'd like to get some more, but that's a budget issue. In terms of the challenges for these agencies, I think we're going to have to look at like a regional crime lab eventually, where, for example, digital evidence, where we can share digital evidence that can, because there's when I'm talking about digital evidence, I'm talking about the contents of cell phones and computers and laptops and digital cameras, all of that stuff everywhere, almost every case. We're looking at doing something, and I think we need to share resources there. I think other crime lab areas, we may have to go to a Harford County crime lab just for quick response on something. And I know that's something we've talked about. I just think that from a resource standpoint, it's something that's going to be stretching our resources to cover some of this stuff. But anyway, I just want to thank all these guys for their cooperation over the years. And Harford County should be really proud of the law enforcement they have. And I'm sorry, I'm developing a cold or something here. Been coughing my lungs out over here on the side, so sorry.
Joe, thanks for everything you've done for the 30 years you've been fighting crime up here in Harford County, and we're going to get to that day when we don't have any crime in the county. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the panel portion of the evening. What we're going to do now, I know we're about 25 minutes over, and honestly, it's because these gentlemen all love the communities. They love what they do. They're great law enforcement leaders, and give them another round of applause. They're doing a great job. So we're going to go ahead and move into the community conversation portion of the evening, and that includes questions, that includes dialogues, that includes comments from each one of you. And I know a few of you have emailed me and called me, and we do have Larry Diggs here, who I'm going to give the first question to. And if you can just raise your hand if you have a question or comment, and the lovely Tanja Ridgely will be around with the microphone to see if you have a question.
Thank you. Good evening. Make it quick. I'll try to make it under 3 minutes. However, first of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for bringing this together for the community. It means a lot to everyone in this room, and I'm quite sure for those who are unable to attend, who are working, and supporting our county with their taxes and through their jobs. I'm sure that they really appreciate this. If they could really be here, that would really be significant. I have two issues that, and I commend you for everything that you have done thus far, but there's a lot of work to be done. One of the things that I give a lot of thought to is our youth. Our youth who are the teens, early teens, who get themselves in trouble, and oftentimes they have no way of resolving that history. But I come from a New York experience from corrections. My dad, I can say, thank God, is a retired detective, New York City Police Department. He's 100 years old.
Wow.
He went into the New York City Police Department August 8th, 1942, and retired August 8th, 1963. He's in Brookdale assisted living facility right now in Reisterstown. Just made his 100th birthday, September 20th. One of the things that he and I have talked about often is how do you ameliorate, eradicate, or help the youth get those blemishes off of their records so that they can participate in a positive way in our communities. New York City and New York State police departments and the whole court systems, they have a program called German with intent to dismiss. They call it AID program. And what that requires is that those youth who are arrested for minor infractions are given the opportunity to redeem themselves. And my question is, how do you feel about assisting or developing a program within the county and to help youth get on the right track? Because oftentimes we understand the socioeconomic and sociocultural parts of the disenfranchisement, if you will. And oftentimes these kids are astray for a reason. But court systems in New York have found that AID program works well, especially if it's managed and operated properly with the appropriate goals and objectives. So that's question number one.
Let's let him answer one. And then we're going to do this one.
Are these on, Aaron?
They are. Should be.
Testing, oh yeah. I'm not familiar with the program. I have said, just like with my Hope group and the heroin thing, I'll look at anything. I mean, come to the table, bring me something to look at, and I'm open-minded enough. We'll give it a look. It sounds somewhat similar to our teen program I was talking about briefly, where young offenders for non-serious offenses can keep their record completely clean. I mean, I don't know if that program is more in the court system or whether it's law enforcement having say or more the state's attorney. I think, did Joe leave? Oh, have you ever heard of that, Joe?
I have, and I don't know whether that's,
when you're talking young offenders, are you talking juveniles, or are you talking, see, the thing is that Maryland's juvenile system is different than almost every other state because we have the Department of Juvenile Services. And so for most low-level crimes, for your first time around, second time around, you go through juvenile services. And they work out informal dispositions with community service or doing whatever you got to do, and you come out of there with no record. So Maryland's different in that respect. In most other states, the police pick somebody up and it ends up going straight to the prosecutor's office, and they have to come up with diversion programs or this sort of thing. So Maryland's a little different. I'll be glad to listen to whatever ideas there are, but I'm not sure that it's not already happening through juvenile services. I mean, I agree that we need a program like that for the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, but we do have programs with expungements or probation before judgment, things like that, again, where people would not end up with a criminal record.
And I'll just add on to what Joe said. Sorry to have you turning in your chair. But I think, and I'll speak for all of us up here, I believe, we are having a horrible time, you heard it several times, recruiting candidates of all demographics, females, white, black, of all demographics. We've run 2 processes since I've been sheriff at the sheriff's office, and we have finished with less candidates than we had spots for. And I can tell you, for every person you see in uniform in the room, when I applied my first career with the state police, you had to prove yourself better than the next man or woman standing next to you to earn a spot in the academy. So they were choosing, they were selecting from a list. We, in our first 2 hiring process here at the sheriff's office, if people weren't eliminated, and there's certain things that we cannot waive because the Police Training Commission and Maryland law requires it, or the Code of Maryland Regulations, it's written in the COMAR, drug use, different types of permanent exclusion and things. If it's something that we can work around, we don't even have the people to work around. We're left with a pool that small. And the first class that we sat had one Asian male in it, 2 females who were white, and the rest were white males. And I think that class was 10 or 11 people total. We just sat a class of 18, and we have 1 female who is white, and everyone else in the class is white. And we had a group. We met. Tandra was part of that. Zelfa, were you part of the group when we came in? And several others in the room to look at what we were doing at the sheriff's office, the hiring process that was in place when I got there, and what other things that we could do differently. And I have some of them here. Orientations, going out. We came to the colleges. We traveled down to Morgan State. We traveled to different places. Recruiting pamphlet, our new pamphlet's on the back table there. Christy just gave the thumbs up, so just aim for Christy back there. Stipend for somebody bring in us a good candidate to pay that other deputy or that other employee stipend. We haven't, that comes into the budget. We haven't done that yet. In-person efforts. So we've taken all the suggestions, the training dates, the exercise dates. We've rotated them instead of just one date at one time during a weekday. We did a weekday, we did a night, we did a weekend. We changed some testing. We put out a study guide for how to prepare for the test. These were all suggestions that came from the room. And our numbers on the second time around were just as bad as the first. So I'm still looking for help. I'm still going to reconvene that group and go over the results that we have again. But we're still interested in, and again, I don't think I'm speaking alone. I know the state police are trying to seat a class of 50 right now and having a heck of a time finding candidates. I had one more thought, and it jumped out of my brain, so I'll go ahead and defer back. Yes, sir.
Larry, we're going to go ahead and come back to you. I'm going to go to Tandra real quick.
Just one more piece to this.
Go ahead.
This past weekend, I had the occasion to meet with the gentleman. He's the chief warrant officer. He's head of the Marine Corps Corrections. And I was trying to get him to play golf, but it was too windy in Virginia, so we couldn't do that. But that's a resource that I'd like to offer to you. Talk to him about that, community policing, recruitment. He's in charge of all of the correctional facilities for the United States Marine Corps around the world. And he's African-American, young man in his mid to late 40s, and he's willing to come up and talk to you about recruitment and other community operations and policing programs.
More than happy. Open to any suggestions. And you mentioned golf. The colonel here in the third row perked up. You can have a foot of snow, and he'll go play golf with you. So we need a golfing partner.
We'll go over to Tandra.
That the colonel plays golf, or that the...
I already know the colonel plays golf.
Yes, sir.
All right, there is a question. This question has to do with interagency relationships within the county. What exactly does that mean in terms of community policing when certain communities are labeled as problem areas? Now, I know that there was a memorandum of understanding that was issued in Aberdeen earlier this year in our city council. So how does that translate in terms of the interagency relationship between all the agencies? How does that translate into everyday community policing? Because some communities feel like they are being over-policed.
I don't know what the MOU.
Excuse me. I think the MOU you're referred to is with the Maryland Transportation Authority Police, and they signed an MOU with every agency in the county. Over policed, I don't know what communities feel that they are over policed. I know in Aberdeen, most of the time, our residents feel that they're not seeing police enough. And that is probably their biggest complaint. They would like to see more patrols. They would like to see more officers down in their neighborhoods, whether it's foot patrol, bike patrol. They don't necessarily want to see a patrol car coming down all the time. They want to see somebody out on foot or a bicycle where they can talk to them. I've never, I haven't come across anyone personally where they felt that we had too many police out there, that we were over-policing the situation. Most neighborhoods want to see us more. I don't know if anybody else can could talk to that, but I feel like we could, at least in Aberdeen, and I'm sure the other jurisdictions, we could always use more police, more resources to get out there with the community and meet with each one of them, because there's a lot of, it's just not community policing. There's other crimes when things are going on and you have to take officers off the street. It leaves vacancies in certain neighborhoods where there's no police there doing any patrols at all. So what I would like to, I'm hoping that at least in my department we'll be adding some police for that specific issue.
And I'll quickly add on, I agree with Chief Traber that what I hear more of is that I don't see the police. And we have the county, the majority of the county to cover at the sheriff's office. But I hear a lot, I want to see a deputy here, this is happening, we're having vandalisms. But as I explained when I was doing my presentation, the way we're deploying our personnel and the way we're assigning them to where they're going to work is by the crime data. So where the data tells us to put them. So if there's one neighborhood that's having a particular problem with break-ins, then I certainly expect, and my majors here who better make it happen, to make sure that there is a police car in that area and that we're doing overt and covert things to stop that problem. And unfortunately, I think like the chief also said, most of the neighborhoods having these problems would like us to leave the cop there permanent, but there's always the next problem that we have to turn to address. As far as community policing, and maybe I don't know if I grasped the whole question, but I think the sheriff's office does less of our community policing efforts in the towns because they have their own municipal agencies. So I don't think we have like the drug task force, we have the traffic task force that Lieutenant Mullen spoke about. We do some joint efforts together. I'd say on community policing, it's maybe not so much. If you're in the town of Aberdeen, Aberdeen is handling your community policing efforts, Bel Air, ditto, Haverty Grace, ditto. And then there's neighborhoods like in Edgewood or in Whiteford or in Norrisville, it's the sheriff's office and Captain Krabs heads up that unit for us that comes out to serve those needs. And maybe I didn't go the right direction with that question. Anybody have?
Sheriff, we have a question over here.
Yeah, my name's Dave Button, and I'm in the construction business. And it just seems like that, I know that I tried to call the DOT and get them to come up here to this, but I don't know what the situation was. And I know you, Sheriff Geller, is in charge of some of the DOT. And it just seems like we're seeing a massive amount of DOT officers, state and sheriff, like we've never ever seen them before. And I was kind of curious if you're having some kind of problems that they're, used to we'd see a DOT officer, maybe once a month around the county. Now it seems like we see them 3 or 4 times a day. And I didn't know if there was a reason behind that. It seems like there's more DOT officers than there are contractors in Harford County.
There's no special enforcement effort going on. Tim, do you know anything about commercial vehicle? If they're deploying for special, so most of this commercial vehicle enforcement is done by the state police. Now, we do have deputies who have been trained up to level 1 inspectors, commercial vehicle inspectors, and highway safety is, we've lost a lot of lives on the roads this year, so it's very important. I know Eric, you got some numbers already today that we can share with you later. I don't think it shows a great increase in enforcement efforts, at least from the sheriff's office, people who are trained up. And I think what it shows, and Eric, nod your head if I go in the wrong direction, is that the majority, which aren't a lot of citations, but the majority of the citations are for distracted driving and seatbelts, things that any other motorist would be cited for. So not much in the idea of the level 1, the truck type inspections or the overweight violations or things like that. But we can get you the exact numbers. We have no special initiative, but I certainly do have an expectation that we will ensure that every vehicle on the roadway is safe. And as we saw, we don't know what the cause was. In Baltimore today, there was a horrific accident with an MTA bus and a school bus that 6 people had lost their lives. With the big vehicles, there's a lot more responsibility because a lot more damage can be done. And there's so much more that goes into driving one. Now, I started my career with the state police as a cadet in truck weight. And there are so many rules, and I feel for you here because there's so many rules and regulations, and they've expanded upon that over the years. I don't know how you don't need a doctorate to keep it all straight. We have deputies who are trained, and the state police have their field force. But the most direct answer to your question is we had no special initiative out there around our traffic aimed at commercial vehicles at this time. And we looked at this once before, right after I took office, and when we got to looking at the numbers, it just really wasn't there. But Eric can share some numbers with you after the meeting.
Mr. Paul, is there a specific area?
It seems like a lot in Barstow and outside of Bel Air area, and Madonna, I mean, we've seen,
Because I know at one point, like 23 in Such Norrisville Road, a lot of trucks to avoid, since they opened up the 83 scales, they're coming down, they're coming off the 4 scales, they're coming down through the county, and then going back down. And I don't know if they specifically targeted that area, but that's the only thing I could explain anything. I'll get your number and stuff afterwards, and I'll check with them and get back with you.
Yeah, because it's been just off the charts where we've seen them. I mean, we've got trucks getting stopped 3 or 4 times a week, and we don't, I mean, most of the time they just walk or do a walk around, let them go. There's, but it's, they hold them up and it just seems like, I don't know, I've seen them up on 165, all the way up in Whiteford, have, 6 or 8 trucks pulled over at a time, and I just kind of was curious what all that was about,
Back in the day when I was hired, it was 1984, so yes, I'm old. I was part of a roving crew that did Harford Cecil, and I mean that wasn't uncommon back in 1984. We may be seeing it more. Again, we'll work with you on the numbers, but no special initiative.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a question. I'll sing for you next if you want me to. We have a question from Facebook, and this question is directed to Chief Trabert of Aberdeen Police Department. It's from Mr. Stephen Dennis. Who is responsible for traffic on Route 22 from APG to Route 40? Every day after work, drivers are very aggressive while trying to leave post after work. Chief Trabert.
We are responsible. The Aberdeen Police Department is responsible for that part of the roadway. And yes, I agree there are issues because of the construction that's been going on for about 2 years. They've been closing lanes. There's no shoulder to drive on. And we have a lot of traffic come out of the proving ground. In the evenings they're coming out, in the mornings they're going in. So we try to enforce the speed limit laws and the aggressive driving laws, but it's very difficult in certain spots because there is no shoulder. There are no places for the police to park their cars or to observe it. So right now that is actually a specific spot that we have identified by our traffic officer for all patrol officers who are in that area to concentrate their efforts. But I will reiterate, it is a difficult spot to police. And you're trying to squeeze a lot of cars into a little bit of space. They tell me sometime in early 2017 the road will be completed, then it'll be, in most parts of Route 22, it'll be 3 lanes in both directions. So when that happens, I'm sure that will alleviate the congestion, but maybe increase the speed, and that's something else we're going to have to deal with. So I hope that answers his question.
Thanks, Chief. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have an issue I think that everybody here might have been involved with. I just hit my 3rd deer, or actually I should say the deer hit me a month ago. It's like the 3rd one in the past 10 plus years. And I don't know any other way to help that problem, whether you're hunters, within the herds. But maybe a question, I understand all the state troopers have deer whistles on their trooper cars. That's not true. I'm just wondering if they work. And everybody drives safely going home tonight.
Okay, we have another question. Your name, sir?
Phil.
Phil.
Excuse me. I came in late, and it's more political than anything else. When we see our sheriffs and others endorsing certain candidates, at least for me, it was kind of troubling that because you have two sides, and it's the influence of an endorsement or public endorsement creates, to me, law enforcement issues or concerns, because then you tilt your hand one way or to the other way with the candidates. And so it's just, I'm throwing this out, it created a concern for me when I saw the endorsement, and it's problematic in the black community, I think. We may not say it, but it's there because then we understand maybe your makeup. And when they say law and order means a lot of things to a lot of folks. And in the black community, law and order means maybe some harsh or discriminatory practices against black folks. So I'm just expressing my concern.
Okay. Did you want me to respond? I mean,
Yes.
okay. This only applies to me because as far as I know, no one else has come out, and I have not endorsed any candidate for sheriff. No one, I'm an elected official. I'm a registered Republican who ran for the office that I hold. In this election, and in every election for my entire life, I have supported the person that I thought would be the best person for the job. I've endorsed in some races, and some races I've kept quiet. If it had not been for the paper calling to ask which candidate I was going to vote for, I'm also not bashful, and I'm also not going to stand up and tell a lie that says I'm not going to say this is who Jeff Gaylor's going to vote for because I've been asked, because it's the politically correct answer. Like it or not, I ran on a platform of being honest. I just told you what I do to law enforcement officers, and you may have missed that part, who lied to me. They don't have a place in our organization. They will be fired. I'm not going to lie to the public. And the truth is, I don't think either candidate is worth a, you know what. Overall, I think it's probably the worst two people who have ever sat on a ballot for office. But I gave my issue-based reasons for where my vote is going to go, but I did not give my endorsement. And again, I'm an elected official. I would have a different expectation for my colonel, for my majors, for anyone who works at the sheriff's office. They are not free in their uniform and in their official capacity to speak and to answer that question that was posed by the paper. But I am, and as an elected official, I feel I answer to the people, so I answer to the people. You may have missed the part about how we police in the county. We are policing by data, and I am confident with the direction that we have taken. We are not concentrating on neighborhood because of the demographic of the neighborhood. We are not concentrating on a bar because that's where the drunks come out of. We are not concentrating on a stop sign because we know everybody rolls it, but there's no accidents there. We are concentrating on where the data tells us to go, where the crime problems and traffic issues need to be addressed. So that's my best answer to the question. I am who I am, and I am an elected official, different than every chief and the barrack commander sitting up here in the front.
Thank you, Sheriff. And James, I'm with James, and he's got a question for you.
So this is to the sheriff. Currently, what is the reoccurring of people returning back to, the detention cell or the jail percentile? And then what is the current program for filling those gaps or bridges to help those once they do come out, that there's a place that would assist them so that they don't return?
The warden's up here, and I think 40% was, what was it? Okay, 45 is the national rate for recidivism. We're in the upper 30s. And you want to talk about our reentry, and we are, just for a moment, I'll defer to the warden on our reentry program. And we're getting ready to do a substance abuse unit, so you want to break the news here?
We currently have numerous programs for all of our incarcerated individuals within the detention center, to include faith-based programs, self-help programs, preparing individuals how to apply for jobs, things of that nature. Also, we have a reentry program that better prepares the individual to actually leave the detention center and understand where they should go and what they should do, whether it be follow-up with drug treatments, whether it be follow-up with parole, follow-up with their faith-based communities. So we're reaching beyond the walls of the detention center. What we're about to do now is start a substance and behavioral health unit So that is a co-occurring problem in society. And it almost boils down to what came first, the chicken or the egg. Was there a problem with the individual that they decided to self-medicate, maybe to start using or abusing some type of CDS? Or is it a social issue for them, and they began to use it because their buddies presented it to them? So the bottom line is it exists, it's out of control, and we are now concentrating efforts in a particular housing unit to those who have been clinically diagnosed with this ongoing issue, this battle of addiction, so they can better be prepared to deal with this and have all the tools to deal with this once they are released. And we're not stopping at the door once they leave. We're following up to make sure that they're going to continue doing what they need to be doing to better themselves, and the better they are prepared to handle themselves, the better they'll perform in the community and won't become a statistic.
So there's like an assignment of either like a social worker or a caseworker to the individuals as they depart?
Yes, we have a mentor program that exists, and these individuals also will be hooked up with and make contact with their mentors, with their sponsors, and they will be individuals that we know will work with them, not just someone to say you're assigned number 2, 3, 4, someone that they have an identification with, so they will follow them and deal with them once they're on the outside.
If you have any ideas, Eric's talking. I don't want to overspeak it. If you have any ideas to help us improve, just like anything else that the sheriff's office is doing, we're always open to suggestions, so we'd be happy to give you a lot more information from the detention center.
I'm glad you asked.
Okay. All right.
We have a question back here. Ms. Myrtle Ridgely, Mrs. Myrtle Ridgely.
Yes, it's a question. And I heard the dialogue a few minutes ago. But my problem is this. Why, when is Aberdeen going to get a transitional program? When the guys come out of prison, out of jail, they go right back to the same thing. Baltimore has a great transitional program where you can go there, you can live, they give you money, you get state aid, you go to school, they teach you how to find yourself. You have all kind of treatment there for them. Psychiatric treatment, all kind of treatment. Now my son, I'll put this out there. Y'all, most of y'all know my son. Some of y'all sitting up there do know him. He went to prison, and when he came back, he went through this, his sister put him in a transitional program. He didn't like it, but he went, and he completed it just about. He even got his CDL license to drive those tractor trailers. That would not have happened in Aberdeen, because you don't have that program. I know the concern about the drugs, but you got to be more concerned about the other side too. He's not a drug addict or anything like that. They need a transitional program in Harford County for all young men and women when they're coming out of jail and coming out of prison. They can't get no jobs. They can't get nowhere to live. They did the time. So what's up for them? What's for them? What can they do? But go back to the same lifestyle. Because they're not going to stop. They put an ankle around, put a monitor around the ankle bracelet on, give them a clock. You got to be in by 7 o'clock. You got to leave by 7 o'clock in the morning. Want them to try to find a job. How are you going to find a job with an ankle monitor on? Who is going to hire you? Who's going to hire you? Nobody. They need that program really bad in Harford County for these young men to be successful, to live their lives like other young men are that don't have records. And maybe that's why a lot of them, put this out here too, a lot of them don't want to be police officers. They don't want to be police officers. They just don't. And maybe they will if things change. But they don't want to be police officers because they think police officers are not their friend. That's what they think. I'm from the old school. I've been here a few years. I've been here a long time, and I know what I know. I know what I know. I see what I see. But I'm glad that Aberdeen and Harry Grace, I don't know too much about the sheriff department. You all have pulled up, and I'm glad because you said 15 years ago you could have no kind of dialogue. We were a part of the dialogue. Chief Trey Burke, you remember that? Yes, ma'am. We were a part of it. We broke those walls down. It was hard, but we kicked them all the way down to the ground. So I'm just wishing and hoping and praying that one day, Aberdeen, when they go to Annapolis, we get enough money to get a transitional program for these young people. Because some of them want to change. They don't live like that. So this is all I have to say. If I offended anybody, well, you just offended, because that's the way it is.
I have not heard of the program, and I don't think it probably falls under the police department. State parole and probation. Have you ever heard of it? I'm thinking either state parole and probation. I don't argue. I agree with you 100%. When people make mistakes in their lives and they fulfilled their obligation, they paid their penance, they paid their penalty, they served their time, we need to find useful places for them back in the community, or else they're going to go back and reoffend. And as you heard, the warden locally, they're working on programs to lower our recidivism rate there, but it has to come from the state level first, from the Department of Corrections and parole and probation and on down through the system. I don't know how localized that can get coming out of the state system, but we can look into it.
Well, I don't think we support over the I was going to say this other thing. I could give you this man's name, his telephone number, that run this center in Baltimore. His name is Mr. Foster. You got a detective center, right? You said you never heard of that before?
We're going to have...
Well, Sheriff, there's been a couple pieces kind of along the same lines. There's been a couple pieces of legislation in Annapolis the last few years that they've tried to address once an individual's been incarcerated, they've got back on the streets, kind of wiping their record out. Some of it, they've watered it down a little bit, some of it's been successful. But one thing that we're doing with the mentoring program in Harford County is the mentees, the individuals that are going to go into the facility and find an inmate in there, and then when they come out, they're going to work with those individuals to try to get them to have their record shielded, to try to get them to expunge some things, and just work with them to try to get them to be more marketable, to go out there and get a job in the future. So that's something that is up and coming. And we have a question in the back here.
Off of that same question, with the detention center, when you have people in there that's doing almost a year, can't you parole them out to a center, as far as the warden was saying, that the county would be taking part of, since you can always get federal funds to start something, and then okay. do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, we do what programs we can do, like work release.
Yeah, but you just got a federal grant yesterday. You signed in.
There's no money. That has nothing to do with getting money.
But what I'm saying, if you can get a program like that, they have programs for that would fall under the county detention center, and the county detention center would be held liable or could run it outside of the detention center. As she was just saying, up in Aberdeen, take one of the motels or abandoned building and transfer those people there, and you would be getting that grant money to take care of that.
The warden's not familiar with any federal monies that do that, but we can look into it. But I do think we'd also have to work.
There's federal money for that.
We'd also have to work with the court systems, because if someone's penalty is court ordered to be incarceration, that's our job to hold them incarcerated. We can't make a decision that we're going to house them outside the facility.
I understand that, but when they're there for 9 to 10 months, they do have come in for parole hearings. Am I correct? Yes. Okay, then from their parole aspect, you would send them there if they have received their parole, instead of just putting them out in the street, telling them to go see.
Right.
There it is.
You're not looking for alternative jailing or sentencing. You're looking for a transition.
Right, because there's federal money for that,
Yeah.
and that's what it will fall under.
Right. And we are trying to build our reentry. We call it reentry instead of transition. Reentry program. We are trying to build that from the ground up, and the warden has taken steps. But we'll certainly look. And if you have something, you can send us of a place to look.
Because the programs you're talking about, you're not inventing the wheel. That same wheel has a flat tire.
Which one's that?
Saying that they go to a rehab or whatever right there in the jail, and they go in there for an hour or two and talk, and then go on out. Then they still got to go back out there in the street.
Well, that's just some of the behavioral health and the addiction counseling, that's separate from reentry. So.
And one thing that the warden was talking about a little bit there is what they're trying to do as well is partner with the community college here at Harford Community College to get some of the individuals that are in there that want to learn skills and want to go in, be an entrepreneur when they come out. They're trying to get them some skills in the business world and some other job training skills as well.
I didn't hear all that.
I don't think he expanded on it.
I just want to let everybody know, 'cause see some people are walking out, but I mean, we're going to stay. So once we finish the questions, we have, what's back there, cookies and tea?
Cookies and punch.
So you'll be able to pull any one of the chiefs or me aside and have conversations, but I'll take questions. I'll take questions all night if you like.
I just have a comment from Facebook. Can you scroll that down? I'll just get ready to read it. Cindy Burns, she says, the live stream is a great idea to include those who want to stay in touch with what our Harford County Sheriff Office is doing, but may not be able to attend in person. So Cindy Burns thanks you for having the forum streamed live on Facebook.
I thank everybody, and I think Avereen is also Facebooking it live tonight, and I'll thank my PIO in the back, Christy Kaler, who Henry had talked about social media a little bit, and it is the new way, the younger generation, websites are old. It is Facebook, it is Twitter, it is Instagram, and that is the way you communicate with so many people today. So for Cindy Burns, I thank you. Henry is going to offer something.
Yeah, and I have to comment, we are also live streaming. My PIO team is standing right there, Sergeant Reiber, Officer Noddick. They're not only one of the best PIO teams, but they're definitely one of the best looking PIO teams.
Christy, we still love you.
I think I saw a hand.
I do have one here, Sheriff. Zelfa Smith, who's come in, our president of the NAACP.
Oh, don't advertise that. Everybody will think that you've called my name several times, so everybody will think that all I do is stay in the police department, but I don't. But my question is, or a comment also, I've just come out of the Maryland State NAACP convention, and one of the things that they have talked about is the legislation for law enforcement. So my question to you is, have you put together any priorities of legislation that will go down to Annapolis? And if you have or have not, if there could be any citizen advisory to what you could use for the 2017 session, and if it will also be available to the citizens or on the media that we would be able to see it.
We don't have any specific bill around law enforcement. In fact, I think we have less bills that we're working on this year than we did last session, getting ready for it from the sheriff's office standpoint. But I mean, that is why Eric has a job. So we are certainly willing to meet if somebody has an idea. Some of the things that came out of House Bill 1016 are good. Some I honestly don't even agree with, but they are what they are. The legislature saw fit. So if there's some idea out there that would be good, both Eric and I also sit on the Maryland Sheriffs and Maryland Chiefs of Police legislative work group. So not only am I pushing it forward from my office, but from that standpoint, we also have a voice, and we'd be happy to carry something back there if someone has something they wanted to share with us. Did I miss anything in there, Eric?
I think you got it all, Sheriff.
Just something else, Selma?
I can ask you later.
Okay.
Okay, we have another question. Your name?
Hi.
Susan Fisher.
I just wanted to sort of put a plug in. I'm the manager of the Office of Human Relations and Mediation for the county, and we have a reentry mediation program at the detention center. And one of the main goals of that program is to lessen recidivism rate. And it's been shown through research to make a difference by 10%. And the detention center has really been working hard the last couple of months to help us expand that program, so much so that we just started a 6-hour conflict resolution course that the inmates can go through. And once they graduate, they get a certificate that then they can leave the detention center with and be able to present to a prospective employer. And I think I just heard that we opened up to get male inmates to sign up for our next conflict resolution class and there were 100 male inmates that have expressed interest in that class. But the reentry mediation program is a situation where an inmate who is in the detention center can mediate up to 3 sessions with somebody while they're still incarcerated and make a plan about what they're going to do when they get out. And that plan can be employment, it can be housing, and it's really made a huge difference. Of all the mediations that have happened since 2009, only 1 person has reoffended.
I think that there's a common theme here tonight, trying to save those that potentially may be going down the wrong road, whether it is the drug epidemic or those that are being repeatedly incarcerated, trying to save them as well. So exactly, the recidivism rate. So although, you know, different communities have different issues or specific sets of problems, they basically all point back to us trying to save our youth, our young people, family members, and neighbors. Does everyone agree with that? I think that's the common theme tonight. Mr. Diggs, you have another question?
There was one back here, I think. Eric?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Jawanda Strickland Lucas, and I actually have 2 questions. Well, 1 comment and a question. The comment is to follow up on the reentry. Currently, there are meetings that are being conducted at the Harford County Sheriff's Office in Edgewood. It is coming out of the detention center is meeting. We're looking at trying to find services in the county, people who have services who can meet the needs of the inmates when they come out. And if you are interested in that, please give your information to Eric Roby so that you can be on that mailing list so that you can be a part of that discussion. It's forming. It is not in place yet. And so we're looking for services and a collective of services. Some churches may serve 5 people in a certain area. Another church may be able to serve 10 people. Some churches may want to mentor inside the detention center, and then some people may prefer to do things on the outside. So that's currently going on. And again, if you're interested in that, please give your information to Mr. Roby. The question that I have of all of the officers here came to my attention today, and I can't confirm this because I haven't had a chance to, but that there is a new law that has been passed in Harford County where the police officers can stop people of Hispanic descent or something like that in order to, and be able to run background checks in order to be able to see if they can be deported. If that is true, is that true?
That is not true. What we signed the other day, this is related to the 287G program that we signed the other day, which is a program being expanded by the current president's administration, federal government, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, their 287G program. And what that is in 33 facilities, we're the 33rd, we're being one of 5 being added this year. When someone is arrested in the county, it doesn't matter if they look like me, or they look like you, or they look like my wife, or white, black, Asian, male, female, every single individual arrested for any crime, when we bring them to the detention center, or if they're arrested within any of the municipalities or by the state police and brought to our detention center, as all prisoners in Harford County are, part of the, we always fingerprint and photograph, and we try to identify that this person coming into our jail is Jeff Gaylor, and no one else in the country has an open warrant for Jeff Gaylor. We are taking this additional step of seeing if Jeff Gaylor's in the country legally. If he's not in the country legally, then the ICE has established 3 priority levels. 1 being not so serious, minor criminal infraction. 2nd being more serious, and 3rd being a threat to national security and or violent criminal. They are, by their priorities, once we identify and they prioritize, our specially trained deputies, once this program's up and running, ICE takes over, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Marks decides whether that individual will be deported upon completing their punishment here. This does not affect how any law enforcement officer, trooper, or deputy will respond to any citizen in the community. CASA Maryland has come out saying that this is going to prevent people from feeling comfortable with reporting being the victims of crime. When the deputies, when the law enforcement officers come out, they are receiving no additional training whatsoever to have any idea what questions to ask, what to look for, or what kind of data to gather to see if someone's in the country legally. It will not change the men and women on the road in any of the police organizations, including the sheriff's office. It will only happen with federally trained deputies in corrections at the detention center. Does that address it? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Diggs?
Thank you. First of all, I have two comments. First of all, I wish to thank Sheriff Giller and the other attending chiefs and their representatives for holding this tonight. I think it's very informative. I think it should be on a bi-monthly basis that you do this, because I'm quite sure there'll be more in attendance and there are more issues that will prevail. My second comment addresses the issue of rehiring police officers from other jurisdictions that don't fit the bill. We have a good rate of 99.7% of great officers, sworn officers, and their intentions are great. It's that 0.3% that spoil it for the entire barrel. I would like to say that it would be in your best interest to reject and repel and also vet carefully those officers from other jurisdictions and to deny them employment within your police jurisdiction. That's all I have to say.
From my standpoint, I can pass the mic down. I could not agree 100% more. And again, back to what I said, one bad police officer, if I can't trust them, they're not staying employed here. And I know that the gentleman to my left, none of them would pick them up and hire them. We need to weed the bad apples out of our organization and trust the law enforcement men and women who are out there on the street that they're there for the right reason.
It would be a good idea also for the county to develop a policy relative to that and other local jurisdictions.
And it would be a good idea, in my opinion, that the county as well as the state and other local jurisdictions develop a policy, because that's how you repel those types of entrance into the job.
There is. Through the Police Training Commission, which has just been renamed and changed under 1016, it's been reorganized, and there are now community members, citizen members, legislative members as part of the police training. What's the new acronym?
Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission.
That. Instead of reporting to the Secretary of Public Safety, it now reports to the governor, the head of that, and they have all the requirements. So if someone does an infraction here that I'm going to fire them over, they are going to be excluded through that body from being rehired by another police department, or if there's drug use, or if there's a criminal act. There's already things in place for that. In order to get past that, you have to go down to the board and ask for a waiver. And I can tell you, the composition of the board is not going to happen.
Many times also, if a person or a police employee from another agency leaves, it's up to the chief. It's up to the chief. They can deny that person's. They can revoke that person's certification through Maryland Police Training Standard Commission.
Sir, at Harvey Grace Police, when we, on the rare occasion we've had to terminate an employee, we flag them through the training commission so that any other law enforcement agency that they may apply with will know to come and talk to us about that. And our chief, Captain Mitchell, does a majority of our background investigations. We won't even consider a candidate that has a flag on their record.
Have there been any changes in the use of force policies? Have there been any legislative changes that have come down as a result of the last session in Annapolis?
No, other than that every agency's use of force policy is one of many policies that have to be now posted online for citizens to be able to review. But it just made me think of something else. I was at a presentation the other day, and Chief Manger from Montgomery County did an absolutely outstanding idea. Some of the things you hear about policing is that policing hasn't, we're policing the same way that we did 20, 30, 40 years ago. And policing has come such a long way. I went to a 22-week academy. It's now a 27-week academy. They've added 200 hours of instruction. Non-lethal weapons such as pepper spray, and tasers did not exist. You know, those are tools that not everybody likes, but they're tools that allow you not to resort to deadly force in some instances. Nonverbal or verbal judo. I remember when that came along. How to interact, dealing with people with mental health issues. So the police officer today is so much better trained than anyone on this front panel was trained coming out onto the street. And it's come a long way. You don't see that in some of the incidents, those that were right and portrayed wrong, those who were wrong that were portrayed wrong, but you don't get to see that in a 5-second video. But so much of what the men and women across the country do every single day is much enhanced from what it ever has been in history, and we're continuing to evolve and improve our profession. And everyone up here, and everyone in uniform in the room, looks at this as a profession. It's not a job to come to. And yes, there's going to be, there's going to be some bad apples that sneak through, but everyone who sat on part of my board on our hiring issues has seen the hurdles that it takes to get through to get a police officer approved by the police commission, and the standard is quite high.
Sheriff, we've got a question about recruitment.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Young, St. James Anglican Church in Harford Grace. I was just wondering, are there any intentional efforts to work with the mentoring programs throughout the county, both male and female, at the younger ages to impress upon them and maybe address their perceptions about careers in law enforcement? You know, the great program that Reverend Reeves has with Boys to Men that you spoke of. Is there any efforts to really go to those groups and make some intentional efforts to recruit them, not right away, but at least get them thinking about and considering careers in law enforcement?
There's efforts into the high schools, and not that particular program, but yes, there needs to be. It's again, we do not have local recruiters at the sheriff's office. That's one of the things that the work group that everyone suggested, and that's one thing that we're implementing, is coming up with recruiters, so people who could go out and make, like community policing goes out and addresses issues in the community, our recruiters would go out and make those kind of contacts and set the example for young people. We do need to approach them earlier, because people are making mistakes, as we're seeing with heroin, into the middle schools. I mean, that is just the craziest thing in my head to get around. You know, when I was in middle school, I didn't know what marijuana was. You know, a cigarette was a bad thing. I didn't know what marijuana was until high school. We have a growing, not a starting rate, we have a growing rate of middle schoolers using heroin. So we need to reach these kids younger to try to prevent them from doing anything that egregious, and see that the law enforcement is a good career path, is promising, and that there are role models to look up to. And I know Henry wants to weigh in.
Yes, sir. I mean, we don't participate in that particular program, but what we try to do is get out to the Boys and Girls Club. That way we can get with the kids at an early age, because we know how important that is to get them at that time, to get them familiar with police, to understand who we are, what we do, why we do it. And the responses we get, we do see some of the young people saying that, you know, they would like to be a law enforcement officer now, because they get around the police, like with our badges for baseball. You know, when they get and we all participate in that when they're out in the field playing baseball with the police officers, and they really get to know them at different ages. I think that encourages them to look at law enforcement as a profession. And you're absolutely right. We have a full-time SRO, and he's standing right back there for the middle school, because we know how important getting to the middle school kids is. Sometimes if you wait till they're in high school, it's too late. So you need to get to them at the middle school level or younger, and that's where the Boys and Girls Club comes in, because, you know, we have a really good participation in Aberdeen at the Boys and Girls Club. So if we can concentrate our efforts there and then at the middle school, I think we'll make a difference.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with the idea of doing earlier contact, and perhaps developing something like a pre-recruitment program, where you're really just developing and kind of seeding the minds of young people about careers in law enforcement. The society has changed, and as was mentioned, there's certain perceptions that a lot of us in the community have about law enforcement. So if you can get to the younger persons, I would say even elementary school, and try to impress upon them that there is a good career for them in law enforcement.
Thank you, Pastor Young. And Tandra, if you'd like to we have one more question over there?
One more comment, because we're going to have to wrap it up soon. So.
Pastor, you opened up another subject that was great.
Sheriff Gala, back in March, I forwarded a letter to you with there were 5 recommendations that were fundamental to our open discussion. I don't think, well, I wouldn't recall that. I know you had a lot of correspondence. But I think that's one of the things that we addressed with the developing a tech officer position within the department that will permit African-American officers in the Harford County Detention Center to transfer to an outside recruitment officer function. That sort of it ties in line with what Pastor Young was saying. The other one, that was generally it. That was, but there were five issues that, or 5 recommendations that were made. I made it, and then I followed it up with correspondence to you. And at some point, I think we'd like to maybe discuss that in detail at some point, right?
And to be 100% honest, I'm drawing a complete blank.
I'm
thinking, I do read everything that comes, and I'm drawing a complete blank. So I need to make sure that it reached me. Did you get anything back from me? Yeah, I'm not sure it reached me. But we will sit and talk about it as soon as this is over. Or the colonel will show it to me when this is over. Zelfa?
Are there any citizen advisory boards around? I know we tried to have one in Aberdeen a good while back, and it didn't pan out, or we didn't meet very often. But I'm wondering if there's any citizen advisory board county-wide, and then for each municipality, Haverty, Grace, Bel Air. I know we don't have one in Aberdeen, and then Chief Moore, I don't know whether we talked about that when I talked with you or not. I couldn't remember.
I look at all my little work groups as citizen advisory board. They're all made up of citizens. So my Hope group, my Alert group, the group that we've pulled together on the recruiting stuff, and we've had the talks on it. So I look at all of them as, I'm open. I'm open to listening to suggestions. I get to make the choice. The people would like me to make the choice, but I want to make informed choices. So I'm open to listening to anything, and that's why I've formed the different groups I have.
We have a brief comment from Ms. Joanne McDonald.
Did you want everybody to answer that, Zelfa?
Yeah. So if I just wanted to comment and say, I'd be open to the conversation. I'm not sure what exactly the advisory board you're looking at specifically, but I definitely would like to talk to you offline about it.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Zilfa, and we've heard several times about House Bill 1016 and how the community policing policy is supposed to be published on your website and everything else. We just redid our community policing policy, and probably within a month, we are going to institute a citizen advisory board of 5 citizens, 3 from the local communities, 2 from the businesses within the town, and I'm also considering, in accordance with House Bill 1016, I'm considering putting one of those members onto a disciplinary hearing, a non-voting member on our disciplinary hearing board for input.
Most of our community groups that we meet with, I know Chief takes suggestions and takes comments from them seriously. At this point, as Chief Moore said, we're in the process of going over House Bill 1016 and figuring out what we're going to do in terms of disciplinary boards and things of that nature.
As spread thin as we get at times, I'm fortunate that some of the community stuff I've done, I piggyback off of the sheriff. I believe it was end of last year. We had a bunch of the community groups. I remember a lot of the faces here were there up at the sheriff's office, and I piggybacked on that. I do have troopers at the barrack I've identified that are very good in the communities. They're also recruiters at the same time, barrack recruiters. And my hope is that I'm able to free them up, get them off from their duties that I've had them on the road to handle, and they're able to get out into the communities, whether it's a specific community group or just getting everybody together down in the spot, a little more frequent than what we're able to now.
I just want to add on real quick on 1016. being in Annapolis a lot last year, there were some of the legislators who worked on that piece of legislation that didn't even know what that legislation did when it went in. It was rushed so fast. So, I mean, work with us, and you're here tonight, we're all open to working with the citizens of the county, but don't forget your legislators. Don't forget the elected officials and delegates and the senators who go to Annapolis, because they're the ones that are really making the decisions and making the votes on the things that happen in Annapolis. And one example comes to mind was that the superintendent of the state police has always kind of been the chair of the police training commission. Well, the way the bill was written, it opened it up to that any member of that new commission, including a citizen who could have no connection to law enforcement and no experience whatsoever, could have ended up as the head, which some might say that's good, but having someone who has no connection to law enforcement, not one understanding of law enforcement procedures and policies, people might not like all the procedures and policies, but I guarantee you someone sat with pen and paper or a computer and keyboard to write it because something happened, and that's where all the policies have developed over the years. So I just wanted to emphasize, 1016 was put in last year in response to everything that was being seen after Ferguson, after Baltimore, and rushed through the system before the session closed. They'll be back to work on it this year. So as you asked about working with us, don't forget about the delegates and senators in the county.
All right, I have a brief comment by Ms. McDonald concerning the Citizen Advisory Board.
Excuse me, my voice is a little weak tonight, but for those of you who don't live in the municipalities, I hope you know there are 9 citizen advisory boards around the county that respond to County Executive Barry Glassman. And since I am so proud of all of you, and I think you might know that from my smiles, that we have one of the best counties in the whole state. And we can work together. We've been doing that. At my age, I'm still working for law enforcement and racial relationships to be good. I have a multicultural, multi-ethnic family, and I'm proud of all of them. So, Citizens Advisory Boards, I was on one before it was called the Citizens Advisory Board. It was when previous county executive was here, Mr. Gray. So now, there's Joppatown Citizen Advisory Board, there's Edgewood, I think Darlington, Dublin, I believe Whiteford Delta, and some others. So if you're not in a municipality, you've got these. Abington, take a look at some of them. Go on the Harford County website. There's so much information. And I need to close. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final question comment tonight, because I know the punch is getting warm back there. And those delicious cookies, they look good. I know some of the guys in the back have been sneaking some. Those PIOs
Party
from
foul.
Aberdeen, I think. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Sam Dyson. I'm a member at the Helping Hand Ministry Church. I'm also a retired police officer, 25 years in New Jersey. And we did basically the same thing that you're doing tonight about a month ago up in New Jersey. And the response that all of you, the questions that you were asking, it was incredible. We didn't get a lot of that, but it was great, incredible. And I commend you, not just for law enforcement, because I know what it's like to walk out there every day and to go out to do the job you did. And one of my jobs, my last 8 to 10 years, I was crime prevention community policing officer. So I dealt with the community, and I know how important it is to bring the community together with the police department. That's how it worked. And there was a couple of things that were said. One of the questions was about someone coming in from another department and not making it and then going to another department. It's not just here in Maryland. In New Jersey, if you come up there and you get laid off or whatever the case may be, you're done. You just go get another career or something. The other thing was about the youth. I noticed you did the Citizens Academy. We do that. The Young Adult Academy. In my department, we ran a youth academy. We believe starting with the kids at this age. And my job was I ran 100 programs a year. The youth academies, they were from ages 10 to 12. They had to do good in school. We took 25, it's first come, first serve. And they had a taste of everything the police officers went through the academy, from physical fitness to doing accident reports, car stops, etc. And I tell you, out of that, we watched those kids grow up and come through school, and some of them did good. There's a couple we had to lock up. But you know what? The idea was we started with them young, and then they went from there, they went to the Citizen Academy, then they made a choice. We talk about recruiting. There's many ways to recruit. You know, going to high school assemblies, when they get in, going out and speaking to youth when they get ready to graduate, going to churches, setting up a function at a church where it's like you invite all the young people out and talk about what our job is or what your job is about law enforcement and how you can make the community better if you get involved. To be a police officer, you have to want to be one. It takes a special person to be a police officer. 25 years I did, and I got hurt in the line of duty. It takes a special person. Now down here in Harford County, you got excellent police officers all over. I graduated in Harvard Grace back then. And my sister still lives in Harvard Grace, and I haven't been down this way really. I just started coming back in June when I came down to join the church. That was almost 40 years since I've really been back. I see a big change. Bel Air, I was in Bel Air with the bishop. I was trying to figure out which state I was in. It's totally different, you know. But the people are still warm down here. The people still have a good heart. They have good people up there, but they have rough people up here too. It's a lot different than being down here than it is here. You have great communication. Yeah, to come out here and do this, and again, someone said it, whether it's bi-monthly or quarterly or whatever, that's how you come together. The police and the community communicate and realize it only works if you're on one accord.
I just want to give my little spiel before it's over with. I want to personally thank my mom, Myrtle Ridgely, very animated lady, but I thank God for her for being my guiding light, her and my father, Elder Bernard Ridgely. And when we started Grassroots almost 20 years ago, it was kind of rough because there were some barriers that we had to confront institutionally. But I can honestly say police relations has gotten so much better. It has gotten better because of the collaborative relationship, because of the open door policies. We've argued, we've slammed papers around behind closed doors, but those lines of communication were still open. And anytime I got ready, I was able to walk through those doors and sit down and have a conversation about what was going on in the constituencies community that I represent, the African American community. So the idea for this forum came because after looking at what was going on nationally with the police shootings, people being shot, and then police being shot, and then the heroin epidemic in this community, I really felt inspired to come to Sheriff Gaylor to ask his help, his blessing for this particular forum, and I'm glad that he agreed. I kind of had a feeling he would anyway. Because it's not too many times I get inspired about something and I get turned down. But no doesn't mean no to me, no means next. But I'm so glad that he agreed, and Chief Walter, she was right there with me to help me walk through this with Eric. And I love this county. I didn't really appreciate it growing up, right by the Susquehanna River, by the lighthouse. I had a beautiful childhood. Beautiful childhood. And when I went to DC and I saw how things were done, I ran back to Harford County. So I love this place. We want Harford County to continue to remain peaceful and welcoming for everyone. And I just thank everyone for coming out. Thank you so much.
As we close this evening, I'd like to invite Father Tommy Allen from St. Mary's up to offer a closing prayer for us. And don't worry, we'll get back there for those cookies and punch, Mike Krabs. I saw you.
I promise 30 seconds. Thank you, Sheriff.
Let us pray. In particular, we implore thy grace and protection for the ensuing day. Keep us temperate in all things and diligent in our several callings. Grant us patience under our afflictions. Give us grace to do and be just and upright in all our dealings. quiet, and peaceable, full of compassion, and ready to do good for all people, according to our abilities and opportunities. Direct us in all our ways, defend us from all dangers and adversities, and be graciously pleased to take us and all who are dear to us under your fatherly care and protection. These things and whatever else thou shalt see to be necessary and convenient to us, we humbly beg through the merits and mediation of thy Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, folks. Our law enforcement leaders and the other law enforcement members around the room will be in the back. Please feel free to have a
This will
cookie and
conclude
a
tonight's conversation with the community. If you have any questions that you would like to pose to Chief Chabert or any particular member of the Aberdeen Police Department, feel free to use the messenger function. Ask that question and one of our PIO staff will respond as soon as possible. Thanks a lot for tuning in and have a great night.